Hey everybody, and welcome to Super Comic Fun Time's daily comic book vlog. Today we are going to continue with the 1989 run of Mr. Miracle, and I also got some more books in. So I'm going to do Mr. Miracle first, and then for people who don't care about these old sort of occult and magic books, then you can leave right after I get done. So I'm going to just kind of do a little recap. Like, I read issue 4, and the art was a little strange, highly stylized, but overall I liked the book. There was just so much good and weird stuff. You had High Father wearing his pilgrim hat, I guess. The only thing I didn't like about it was kind of Scott's character, but I could overlook it because, to be quite honest, I don't quite get what Scott's character is. I've read him in the, I'm looking at my bookshelf, at the Dark Side of War, and I've read him in some other things, the early Kirby books, but I don't really have a grasp on what his personality is supposed to be. And I used to get moody around Thanksgiving when I was a young one, probably around this age, maybe a few years before. I'd been out of the house. I was in the Army for a little while, and I came home from Thanksgiving, and just something depressed me at that time. I don't know what it was, but I could sort of relate to it through Scott's character in this book. And then, of course, you have the Forever people show up, and Beautiful Dreamer is having a baby at the same time Scott is getting kidnapped. It's just a wild book. Really enjoyed it. I like the cover art. And even though the art, a lot of the stuff wasn't my style, there was certain things. Let's just see if I can find it real quick. Sorry, I should explain. I am not feeling very good again. I have a bit of a sore throat. I kind of talked myself into feeling good this morning, and I went to work, but it was a drag, and I think it's only because of the endorphins, because I got these books to open, that I'm feeling happy. But this page, I really like. This is probably my favorite page in this book. I don't know. I'm not one for original art, just because it's just nothing that I ever gravitated toward. But if I could get some original art, I think I would like to get that page. I just think it's very, very cool. So then, of course, we went to the next issue in my run was issue 8. So we jumped 4 issues, and this one was, I thought it was a mess. J.M. DeMatteis had done this one and did an excellent job, in my opinion. This one was a merger between Len Wein and J.M. DeMatteis. J.M. DeMatteis was credited with plotting it, I think. Plotter. And Len Wein was the scripter. And it had a lot of great art. I liked the art a lot better in this one, but the story was just full of these kind of groan, cringe-inducing jokes and whatnot. But at the same time, I didn't, just looking at the artwork for it, maybe if different dialogue had been used. This is the one where the robots are chasing Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, and Mr. Miracle. They get turned in. Mr. Miracle goes back to his fix-it shop, and he turns them into the Beatles for some strange reason. And I don't think this was a fun scene as they're all sitting here around the table. So I think they even mentioned they're robots, so they don't need to eat, but they want to blend in with human beings, and so they are capable of eating. And then this issue I thought was mildly better. Len Wein took over, and this was a good issue. It wasn't great, but then we come to these. Now, they just keep getting better. This one I read this morning. Great cover. He's kind of in these steel bands, and it's like, oh, guys, can we talk? I love the cover for these books. I think all of these covers are awesome. And this book, it's kind of like, Scott's wearing, I like the shirt he's wearing, but he's kind of complaining a lot. I mean, he tends to complain a lot. That seems to be his character, at least at this point. I don't know if this is historically his character. From what I read in the Jack Kirby omnibus, as much as of it as I've read so far, he doesn't seem as kind of whiny as he is here. And then Big Barda is constantly frustrated too. And I think the whole thing is, and it's the conceit of the book that Scott and Big Barda want to blend in. They're living in Bailey, New Hampshire, and they just want to live normal lives. So this book starts off with this guy, Ted something or other. It's not Ted Cord. I think he showed up at the end of, was it this book? And of course, I did not see it. It's like, yeah, he shows up at the end of this book, and him and Oberon are drunk, and they want to convince Scott to go back into showbiz. And that's the, if there's any major arc in all of these issues, even as broken up as they are for me, is getting Scott back into show business as the escape artist. So what happens here is, like, all these people around his fix-it shop. And if you remember from my last vlog on Mr. Miracle, Scott had created some kind of miracle cleaner, and Oberon had shot it as a gun at these two ladies who came in because they wanted the cleaning process. And so in this case, Oberon went behind Scott's back, and he created this box, and people go into the box, and like here you can see the guy's clothes are all grimy and stuff. I don't know why, he decided to go out like that. But, for the conceit of the story, he did. So he goes into this refrigerator-like box, and kids never go into an abandoned refrigerator. No matter what Indiana Jones tells you, you can't survive a nuclear blast in it, and you can suffocate inside. So that is a bad thing to do. But they go in here, and then he comes out all clean. So I'm not sure why they built the refrigerator box, the refrigerator booth, but so, Scott comes in, he's all angry, swinging a bat around. And so, then what's his name? Maxwell Lord is in on it. And I don't know very much about Maxwell Lord from this era. You'll remember I did a Something from the Pile late summer, which was an annual. I think it was the '89 annual too. And I really didn't like the main story in that book, but it did have Maxwell Lord in here. And so, like, Oberon went behind Scott's back to get financing from Maxwell Lord, and you'll never guess who Maxwell Lord brings in. The Stan Lee character. What is his name again? Funky Flashman. So Maxwell Lord gives Funky Flashman the authority to do whatever he needs to do to make this cleaning business a success. And of course, all Funky wants to do is bring Scott back into show business. So, so yeah, here we got Scott being really frustrated. So that's a really good line. And it's a fun character. I've only read like a couple of stories with Funky in it. I haven't read any of the originals yet. I haven't got that far in my Jack Kirby omnibus. But I had that other New Gods book that I showed like last summer or something. I think it was from this area. It was slightly before. I think it was mid-'80s. I think it was from '85 run. And I really liked that one. I liked the way that started. And then Funky Flashman is always there. And then Barda is continuing with her animal rights activism. And I thought this was a really good issue because this woman, I mean, just the way this this scene is framed here, this woman is kind of like crazy. She's very militant, and at the same time, Big Barda just thinks like, why are we protesting? Why don't we just go and threaten these guys? But everybody goes, well, that would be counterproductive. So then Scott, he like just feels like he needs to run away. And so he just heads out to the country in his Mr. Miracle suit, riding his flying discs. And then these thugs jump him, and they're like saying, give us our package. We know you have it. We traced it to you. And they put this steel band like on the cover on him, and he escapes in the most ridiculous way. And, this is the part that, strains credibility. But he's an escape artist, so like, he's kind of all mummified in this band, and they tell him not to struggle because the band is kind of like a living material and it keeps constricting. But what he does, he escapes because he has some kind of laser right here. He's got some kind of laser device that cuts through the bands, and then he tunnels out from the back. And none of these guys notice it or hear anything or notice anything. So he tunnels under them. And so they're standing on some weak ground where he created a tunnel, and that's how he escapes. It's ridiculous, but it's cool. I like it. And so, like, Scott fights those guys, and he kind of chases him off because they realize he's more formidable than they expected. And then we have Funky. I want to say Funky Winkerbean, which was a cartoon I used to read when I read the Daily Comics. What's his name again? Funky Funmaster. Funky. This like one of the reasons, like when I get sick, I get really moody, and it's like that. It's like 1 minute I have a fact in my head, the next minute it's gone, and it gets frustrating. It's like I'll decide, oh, I got to get this before I do my video. I go out of the room to get it, and I forget what it is I'm going for, which some people would say it's age, but I don't normally have that problem just when, I got a little bit of a sore throat now and whatnot. And so like, I'm sure it will come back to me. Funky. So anyways, like, this is like one of the few times you see him really, really angry. So like, one of the things that Scott told Funky is that there's a secret ingredient in his formula for cleaning the clothes with that spray, and he's not going to share it. And so he just, Funky decides, well, he's got the authority because Oberon went behind his back, and Jack Lord, Maxwell Lord gave him the authority to get anything done. And so, like, you got these German scientists or kind of German caricatures. What is he saying? It's like, please be forgiving us, Herr Fleshman. Oh yeah, Fleischman, Funky Flashman. That's what his name is. Thank you, German scientist. But we are doing their best we can. So, and like he's just kind of, look at that phone. That's like a 1980s phone. That's kind of cool. Looks like it might be a mobile phone, and I would guess that Funky Flashman would have it. And I like how he called him Fleischman, like Fleshman. That's kind of cool. So then, like, he's like screaming here because he's totally frustrated. And like I say, this is like one of the, like I haven't seen Funky Flashman a whole lot, but I've never seen him this frustrated. And in the next issue, he isn't this frustrated, but we finally find out what's in that box. You remember that box from the last issue? That's what makes this so good, is like, everything is coming together. And it's this villain I never encountered before named the Head, I guess. And, just look at that smile on his face. But why is he hanging out in the shop? He doesn't seem like a bad guy. If he wanted to attack Scott and Oberon, he could have done it at any time. So we find out what happens. I really like this cover too. So like, and I appreciated this cover even more. I like this heads up. So I didn't even notice that before. When I start one of these books, I normally read it. Since I've been going with this run, a lot of times I'll read the copyright material to figure out anything else I can, but I haven't been doing it that much. And this cover is so fun. I didn't even notice the heads up till I'm seeing it backwards in the monitor. That is hilarious. Anyways, this book is just, it's a lot of fun. So it shifts scene is like we're out, I guess, at the edge of town, and the Head is kind of out there, and the Head promises Funky Flashman that he can like duplicate this stuff. And then you've got this going on. I mean, that's pretty nice artwork. I'm not sure like how it would look on really good paper today. I think it would look fantastic on good paper. On this paper, it might be the age. It looks a little faded to me. And I that might just be something that happens over time. I don't know if it would have appeared brighter. So like, anyways, he comes over this group of kids. And this is interesting too, because, you've got Superman, who's always kind of friendly to kids. But here you have this more complicated relationship between Mr. Miracle and his fans. It's like, first of all, one guy is saying, hey, guys, look, it's Mr. Miraculous. That's Miracle, dummy. Don't you know anything? It's like, darn, that's what I get for being so preoccupied, all this attention. And so it's like all these kids are like, they're playing basketball, and then they're like, one says, can I have a autograph? Can I have a ride? And one guy goes, I just want to touch you. And so like, I like this because I don't think I've read a comic book hero. There might be some out there, and you can tell me in the comments down below that this superhero, because he's trying to hide in New Hampshire, and I don't know exactly how he got exposed. We saw that he was on the news in one of the issues, but we don't know why because we were missing an issue in between. But yeah, I like it. It's like, look at them all closing on me like vultures. They all want a piece of me. And Oberon actually wants me to subject myself to this insanity every night. Little buddy, you got to be kidding. And then the kids are like, hey, where are you going? And he goes, I went out in the woods to be alone, lady. I guess that's a young woman there. And yeah, so you can see like in this scene, so that's her, and she's like the one here saying, I don't think that's her because that's a ponytail, so she must be a different character that we don't see, and it doesn't really matter. But I went out the woods to be alone. Maybe I should have stayed there. But he's worried that Oberon will call out the National Guard looking for him. And I really like this sequence of art here. So he comes down, he lands in an alley. He's like saying, oh, lucky it's just dark enough. I can like come down. And I like that he's got this little thing that, he touches on his wrist. And then I just like that sequence of him, like, let's see if I can get a good shot there. So yeah, he comes down like that. I think that is just really cool. This is probably my favorite book of the 89 runs so far. It just keeps getting better, which is what you want. I mean, there can be a clunker in a run, but and then you've got these kids there, these kids that have been following him since that the first issue that I read, which was number 4 of this run, and they know who he is. And this time they get proof. They're like hiding out in the dumpster, and they actually get his picture, which is, I wonder how that's going to play out. Now, fortunately, I think I have every issue going forward through around 22. I did notice, like, in a couple of issues, Doug Mensch will take over. I used to really like Doug Mensch when I was a kid, and I probably still like him. I just haven't read anything recently. I haven't read anything in the 90s. When I was a kid, he was at Marvel, and he did Weird World, and these were like these 3 big magazine-sized comics that were kind of like a trilogy that, whether they needed to be a trilogy or not is some debate. I remember reading in the Comics Journal. It's like, well, the Lord of the Rings was a trilogy, so this is a fantasy, and like it just became a tradition, whereas Lord of the Rings was only published as a trilogy because they couldn't fit the whole story in one book in those days. At least that's what I've heard. So anyways, Scott comes back to the Fix-It shop, and then Funky Flashman shows up, and he's got a contract, and like here, Scott practically kills him, but they kind of like make light of it, It's like, Oberon says, well, Scott says, give me one reason why I shouldn't kill him, and Oberon says, well, for one thing, think of all the paperwork. You're going to have to fill it out in triplicate yet. And he goes, oh, good point. I didn't think of that. And so he lets him go. And, remember that triplicate line because that's going to come back later. And then you have the three of the thugs that attacked Scott in the previous issue show up at the shop, and they're looking for this package. And, of course, we readers, we know that the package is that living thing that, well, now we know it's the head. But yeah, so like they break in, and then we cut away from that to Big Barda at the animal rights protest. In this book, it does. So like Big Barda is here, and then you have this guy who looks like Abel from the House of Secrets, maybe a little thinner. And I thought, oh, it's going to be a House of Secrets tie-in. That'd be so cool. But like Barda just gets mad at him, and she manhandles him. And that gets everybody like kind of kicked out. And like, let's see. Well, congratulations, Barda. That was precisely what we didn't want to have happen. Maybe not, Kathy, but it may have been precisely what this operation needs. So, she's very angry there. Oh yeah, that was like an interesting thing in the previous book when she's at the animal rights meeting. I think she compares the leader to Granny Goodness. She compares somebody in one of these books to Granny Goodness, but I forget where it was. But I thought it was kind of interesting, and I think it was with the animal rights activist. Just how, but like like she was very militant, the leader of the animal rights activists, but it's Barda who actually commits the first act of violence. Like everything else was kind of peaceful. So then we're back to the fix-it shop. Barda doesn't get much space, and so you got this fight going on, and Oberon and the other Ted, he's someplace in the store. I think Ted Brown is his name, and he's not a character I really know. He's been in a few of these issues, but I really don't know who he is. Anyway, so here we got some beautiful art. It's like they jump in, they think Scott is under the pile, but he's not. Oh, no, he's not in the pile yet. He's kind of behind the thing, and he puts on his Mr. Miracle. And he starts fighting him. They get in the pile, and Oberon and Ted join in looking for Mr. Miracle. But, of course, Mr. Miracle's an escape artist, and he comes out in another area. But then the head comes out, and he doesn't want to go back with these people. Apparently he's their leader or something, but I guess they're too fanatical for him, and he wants Scott to protect him from them. And he that's where you get the cover where he kind of attaches himself to the neck. Here it looks like he might be maniacally strangling him, but that's just the cover to get you to buy it. In reality, he's asking for protection, and he's just, for whatever reason, he's scared of his followers, and that's not revealed in this book. But what Scott does is he kind of like doesn't promise to do anything for him, and he gets him off with an electrical field. And Funky tries to escape at some point, but then he can't. But then the whole neighborhood ends up being destroyed, and Scott takes responsibility, but he doesn't have the money to pay it. So what happens? It's like Funky Fleshman is there with the contract, and he can pay off all the debts. It's like right beside you, where do I sign? Right beside the X, True Believer, in triplicate, if you don't mind. So that triplicate gag came back. And so, like, yeah, I don't know if this character ever gets his comeuppance. I know he's like a caricature of Stan Lee, how Jack Kirby saw Stan Lee kind of taking advantage of him. And then the book ends with the head running off into the woods. And, he's saying, like, he promised to protect me from my former colleagues, but we don't know who this he is because Scott really didn't. So where was he when I really need it? And then he gets like kind of sucked into the air. So I don't know if that will continue in the next issue. I'm assuming it does. So these books are a lot of fun. Scott Free is a very complicated man, a very complicated superhero, and it's fun to learn about him. It's fun to read the original Jack Kirby's, and I'm going to get back to that. But I really want to get my book exchanged now. I haven't figured out how to do that through Amazon yet. But so let me know what you think. Did you read this run? Does my telling you about it make you interested in it? If you missed it, I'm going to go to my comic book store and see if I can find some back issues to fill in some of the ones I'm missing. Maybe that one that I didn't like so much, the one with the Beatles, maybe it's better. Excuse me, I need a drink. Excuse me. Maybe it's better, without the gap in there. Maybe it makes more sense because there's a 4-issue cap going 4 to 8, right? So 4, 5, 6, 7. So I guess it's really a 3-issue cap. So anyways, we're going to get to what's got my dopamine up is like these books. And I ended up ordering them from 3 different online used bookstores. I went to Abe's Books and I went to Amazon just looking for the best price. So this one feels like a paperback. And, now I don't quite remember what I ordered. So, there's always that. But I'm excited to share it with you. See what we've got in this one. This is a Theodore Lawrence book, I think. Yeah, this is one of his early books. Might be the first one he had published. And it's The Miracle Power of Believing. This is paperback. Normally I try to get the hardcovers if I can. But since I care more about the knowledge in the book, Theodore Lawrence, he was kind of like the one who introduced me to to all this stuff. So that's what this one is, Miracle Power of Believing. So here on the back, but the other thing I love about these books is they give you like, you know, tell you what they are. So let's see. I'll read some of these chapters to you. How personal creeds can bring greater rewards in life. How the Joy Creed can invigorate and strengthen you. How the Truth Creed can bring abundance and plenty. So this is very interesting. I look forward to seeing what Theodore Lawrence's take is on it. The other thing I like about getting these old books is like sometimes people will underline things, and I like to know what other people thought was important, as well as knowing what I think is important. A lot of times it is the important stuff. Sometimes there's marginal notes. I enjoy those too. This one's a little more damaged than I would have liked, but I think it was a good price, you know, and I just really want to read this book. This wasn't really a must-have, so I think I got this book because, like, it just must have been a very good price. You know, once again, I don't remember. I just like went to the bookstores and I searched on them by price, lowest to highest, and I try to get the best quality at the lowest price. So this is a hardcover. Let me get my knife again. See, there's my sniffling. I'm so sorry. My energy is starting to fade too, so it was really fun talking about. Oh, I like this. Handle with care. It's a book, but it's fragile. I've always had this kind of respect for books, whether they're comic books or whether they're books. I just, you know, let's see. This one is confounding me, so I think I will just take my knife, my X-Acto knife, and see how I can do this least awkwardly. There you go. Let's see which one this one is. Ooh, this one is loved and protected, so ooh. Oh, she says she sent me an email several days ago. Did I get the email? I did not get it, so. But I'm very excited for this one. This book looks. Okay, yeah. One of the reasons I got it is because it had the dust cover, the plastic. So this book is called Mystic Vibrasonics. So I wonder if she sent me an email. Oh, this is why she sent me the email, is because the spine is cracked here. Oh well, that might be why it took me so long to get it. But it was like some of the prices on these books is very high, so but I cannot wait to get into it. I'm a little disappointed at the condition, but like she said, she sent me an email. I did not see it, so it might have gone to my spam filter, and I wasn't checking that. I was checking for Abe's books, and I don't think I saw that, but the cover is nice at least, and I think if I'm very careful with this one, I can enjoy it a lot. So, I mean, this is a book I never heard of, and you know, I was like looking for the best price. And the main reason I got it is because the cover I knew was in good condition. So, and I think I would probably keep it. I'll look for the email and see what she had to say to me about it. That is like one of the things. So this book, this will be another Theodore Lawrence. I got two of those books. He was like my favorite writer when I was a kid. So here we go. This one came out in around 1980. The New Miracle Dynamics. Amazing Power for Daily Living. So again, even this was a press called Parker Press, and they just made a lot of these books. So here we have a picture of Theodore Lawrence. The interesting thing about his name is he doesn't have an E at the end of his Theodore, and apparently there was a character in Little Women called Theodore Lawrence. So I just love these books. Let's take a look at some of the chapters. what new miracle dynamics will do for you and everything you or everyone you touch. Activate new miracle dynamics for great new life. Obtain a obtain and pyramid mountains. Obtain and pyramid mountains of money through a psycho-image materialization. How to use the psycho-image materialization key to miraculous healing. So I was very happy to find this book. Like a few weeks ago, I found it at a very good price, like around $4 or $5. And then I went to Amazon, and the first place I found it, I was not able to find it again for that price it had been sold. And Amazon, they were all up there in like, at least more than $20. I don't know, they might have been in the $40 range. So I think I got this one for around $8 or $9. So I was very happy with that. Oh, I'm going to enjoy these books. I'll give you a book report if you're interested. Just comment down below, especially if you're interested in, I think comic book superheroes are, a power fantasy. You want to be powerful, and these books, like, they give you techniques. And not feeling good today, but this morning I did a little meditation and I got myself feeling better, and I felt good most of the day until like maybe the last hour or two of work, when I just started to crash. And then, of course, I came home and I had these nice books for me to pour over tonight when I end this video. And that just really shot up my, my serotonin and dopamine and all of those neurotransmitters. That's what I was trying to think. So, the other things you can do, other simple things you can do is just look up. A lot of people don't look up very much. When I go to the bus stop, like I found just before Easter, I was walking to the bus stop from work like one day, and I caught a sundog. I think I mentioned that in one of my videos. I don't remember for sure. And then on that Friday, I was waiting at the bus stop, and there's a halo around the sun. It was just really cool. And I'm always looking up because I'm always interested in birds. Like, I'm always looking for hawks and eagles and things. And so, just looking up, it does something to your body chemistry. The other thing you can do is you just can hold your hand over your heart. Just the simple act of holding your hand over your heart gets you into a better mood. And I guess there's science behind it. I just know it works. And you can even do affirmations from this, probably the simplest affirmation is like every day, depending on where you are, is every day in every way, I am better and better. And that's a very good one. The reason I'm interested in this is, like, I started my comic channel. At the same time, I created a channel called Douglas Affirms, which I had just started an affirmation practice at that time. And in order to keep me doing the affirmations, I thought I would do a YouTube channel where, 3 days a week, I would just type out the affirmations on the screen. And anybody who wanted to do an affirmation practice, but maybe is like me and you might slack off a day or two, like, they could always just have a place like there's support for me and support for anybody who wanted it. So I've been doing a lot better since I started my affirmation practice, and things have just been snowballing in a good way. So, I mean, it's not like I don't have any problems, but I have more resources to deal with them. The other thing is I do suffer from social anxiety, and that has helped a little bit. I haven't really tested it. I do want to start talking to people more, like when I'm on the bus, maybe strike up a conversation if I can. It's hard because everybody these days has phones and they're on their phones. So, most people probably don't even want to chat. I know normally I don't. I prefer to read. So, but anyways, I think I'm going to end the broadcast here. Thank you for joining me today. Tell me about your favorite books down below, whether they're comic books. Tell me what you think about affirmations. I think they're great. I think at the very least they can't hurt. And I've been around people who think they're positive. I've been one of these people who think they're positive, and but they're like always like saying, "Oh, this is going to happen." And so, like, through my affirmation practice and my morning meditation and stuff, I'm learning to become aware when I am like, even if it's not, it's okay to be angry. It's just good to like be conscious of the anger and like know that, so that you can like kind of say, okay, I have to take a time out. Like I was a bit angry this afternoon, and it has to do with just not feeling good. Like I say, it's like having an idea, going to try to execute the idea, forgetting what the idea is. That gets frustrating for me. But anyways, like I say, I'm going to close this vlog down now. I might, it's a daily vlog, so I'm going to try to do it every day if I have something to say. If I don't have something to say, I'm not going to force it. Or if it's like I was last week, I think this cold started. I might even be getting better from it, because I think it was like Thursday or Friday when I came home and I just put on some theta waves and practically just fell asleep. And when I did get up, like after a half an hour, I was like in that, that kind of zombified state. So anyways, keep feeling good, keep reading comics, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.